Khabib once said that fighters cannot have two peaks in this sport. Now, a couple months ago, back in August this year, Khabib was doing a press conference in Russia where he was asked about this two peaks comment. A journalist brought up Jose Aldo as an example of a fighter who's coming into his second peak with his wins over Marlon Vera and Pedro Munoz. Just as a refresher, this is what Khabib said about Jose Aldo. Quote, "How is he showing it? He got beat up when he fought. Who'd he fight? He fought Peter Yan, right? A guy wins one fight and everyone starts talking. When Conor fought Cowboy, he looked like a lion. When he fights stronger opponents, he looks like scared chicken. Fighting top fighters show your worth. A fight against Cowboy won't show what level you're at, just like Aldo's fight against Pedro Munoz. Let him fight Peter Yan in the same way, then we can say he's peaking again. You saw what he did. He closed up and waited for the ref to stop the fight. That shows that you're not at your peak. If you're getting hit and you're conscious and you're not defending yourself, I call those fighters businessmen. They come out to make money. There's no way Aldo's having a second peak. You can try to prove it all you want, but I've been through this. I know better. Thank you. You're a journalist and I'm a fighter." End quote. Conor even came out to defend Jose Aldo after he saw what Khabib said, tweeting that, quote, "Aldo is 100 times the fighter that Khabib will ever be," end quote. So that was all a couple months ago in August, and now just recently Jose Aldo has responded to Khabib's comments on MMA Fighting's Portuguese podcast Trocação Franca. Here's a translation of what Aldo said. Quote, "Khabib is saying you can't peak again, but we just saw an example with Glover Teixeira who got there, lost, and got there again at age 42 and won. Completely dominated the champion, took him down and submitted him. Israel Adesanya himself fought Jan Blachowicz for 5 rounds, a pretty boring fight, 2 high-level athletes, and Glover, who's older than me, won. Sometimes Khabib talks too much. He's not doing much these days. He's retired, so he's looking for attention that way." End quote. What are your thoughts on this situation between Aldo and Khabib? And can a fighter truly have two peaks in this sport? Let me know in the comments. Moving on to Jorge Masvidal, who did his first interview since pulling out of the Leon Edwards fight. Speaking to Ariel Helwani, Masvidal won't reveal his injury but is ready to fight in March. Jorge also fires back at Leon for saying he was scared to fight. Here's what Masvidal said.
Word comes through that you're out of the December 11th fight against Leon Edwards. What happened?
Good injury happened. I don't think I've ever signed a bout agreement and pulled out ever. In my whole history in the UFC, this is the first time. And I don't want to discuss the actual injury that I got, but I can't have impact for like 5-6 weeks. And the reason why I never discuss my injuries online is because why, Why am I going to give info out of myself? So I told the UFC if we could push it back further. It's up to Leon, and from his initial response, he doesn't want to wait. I don't blame him. If he has the option to fight for a title or wait 2 more months from me, I don't know what he wants to do, or nor do I give. All I know is if he wants to go February, March, we can go. If he doesn't want to wait, then it's on to the next date.
He didn't think you'd ever show up, that you went running, that you didn't want to fight, that you were out of shape. What do you make of his comments?
He could respond to all of that. He could make all that be true and known if just fight in March. Shut your mouth, wait for me, and then we fight in March. If not, whatever, I have history on my side. I've always made weight. I've never pulled out of a signed agreement. I have history on my side. First time, I'm coming off 2 losses as well. I'm 37. I just got to make sure that I go in there healthy and well to give him my all, If he wants to wait till February, March, I could decapitate him on site for the world to see. If he doesn't, what can I do,
Moving on to Leon Edwards, who gives his thoughts on Usman versus Covington 2. Speaking to Brett Okamoto, Leon says that Kamaru is falling in love with his stand-up, but there's no chance he expects Usman to stand with him if they were to fight. Here's what Leon said.
You mentioned Usman fought 2 weeks ago in New York. What did you think of that fight, him and Colby?
It was good. It was good, similar to the first fight. I knew, like I said, 2 wrestlers that always end up striking, and Usman definitely fell in love with his hands now. He definitely believed that he's called that Canelo and everything, So he truly believes that he's like some sick striker, So fair play to him. I know when we fight, I think we're going to be shooting for his takedowns, I don't think it'll be a striking match. I think it's more like a wrestler versus striker. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and congrats on the win.
You said he's fallen in love with his hands, but you think it's just going to be pure wrestling when he takes on you?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe he'll come out and try box and try to do what he does. But I think he's going to be shooting for the wrestling, that's the way of getting victory the first time we fought. So I should imagine he'll come back with the same game plan again to try to get victory again.
Moving on to Kevin Lee, who was suspended 6 months by USADA for testing positive for Adderall. Kevin Lee did have a doctor's prescription for his ADHD, but forgot to inform USADA about it prior to his fight. He was also fined $16,000, which is a bit too much in my opinion, especially on a fighter's salary, but Kevin Lee will be able to return next year in February. Next up, several news sites were reporting that Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards was in the works for April, per Ariel Helwani, but Ariel has come out and said that that is not true, and that he never reported that, as well as shaming the news sites for saying that he did. Helwani did confirm another fight though, and that was a boxing match between Dan Hardy and Tyron Woodley, which is targeted for spring 2022. So if you want to see two MMA fighters box, then this fight's for you. Moving on to Alex Volkanovski, who gave his thoughts on Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. Speaking to Ariel Helwani, Volkanovski says he wants to fight Holloway next for the trilogy, but tells Max to stop playing games. Here's what Alex said.
What do you think of the main event?
Yeah, man, great fight. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I can, push some narratives and say some things, but mate, it was a fun fight, very competitive. But yeah, man, it was good. Obviously, the Max had to go in there and use all his tools. Watch, it's MMA. You know what I mean? I know he likes to say, I'm a boxer, kickboxer, blah blah blah, and do all that type of stuff. But seeing some different tools like that was cool to see. So yeah, man, it was a fun fight. I actually enjoyed it.
Were you surprised in the post-fight interview he didn't mention you, that he didn't call you out, that he didn't defend?
I'm not surprised, man. Like, all week he's been, bigger fights and all that. Again, I'm the champ. You know what I mean? Like, you can say whatever you want, you can push whatever bullshit narratives you want. I hate getting into this, but hey, look, at the end of the day, I mean, so you're 0-2, and it's, you know what I mean? You're trying to act like, oh yeah, maybe we'll see this, and mate, you don't want it. Don't worry about it. I'll get the next guy. There's plenty of people waiting. But again, I want the best guys. Max proved he's the next best guy. And you know what I mean? And, again, nothing but respect for him as a fighter. But stop playing the games and all the bull. You want the fight, let the UFC know. You know the UFC are telling you about it. They're telling us about it. You don't want it, hurry up. We'll see who's next. You know what I mean? Whatever. Moving
on to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who is looking to return to the octagon in March next year. Speaking to South China Morning Post, Joanna says Dana promised her a shot at the title after her last fight, but is willing to fight someone else if Rose is not ready. Here's what Joanna said.
You mentioned fighting one of them. I assume your preference would be fighting Rose, the champion. That's the number one option for you right now.
Yes and not. And I know how to do business as well, and I understand UFC, and I know what Dana promised me after my last fight. But I understand Rose's position. She's the champ, and she can decide who she wants to fight next and when. And I feel like I want to be back to the octagon March, April. So if the champ is not going to be ready, if she's not going to if she's not willing to fight me, so I will take another fight, because I just want to be back, and I don't want to sit here and wait another 6, 8, 12 months. It's not that UFC made the pressure on me that I have to take another fight. I just want to do what's good for me, what's best for me, and I feel that I want to fight. I want to be back into the UFC octagon March, April, like I said.
That about wraps up the video for today. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you like, but whatever you do, have a great day and peace.